it happen. Today, we are pleased to welcome two elected officials that we proudly supported in the 2018 elections through our PAC, Sheriff Kevin Turner and Madison County Probate Judge Frank Barger. Because of the investments that we made in them, they are here today investing in our business by keeping us equipped with up-to-date information. We'll hear from each of them about their new jobs as elected officials. So in preparation to introduce our speakers today, of course, I spent time reviewing their bios, which if you've never had the chance to do, please do. They're amazing. But what stood out to me, specifically, we'll start with Sheriff Kevin Turner, actually came from a local business owner who's pretty hard to please, I will say. While at a dinner and watching Sheriff Turner mingle with the guests, the business owner summed him up like this. He's a fair man, honest, well-liked, and of high character. And even after seeing some of the worst things you can imagine, he still believes in the good in people. Please welcome Sheriff Kevin Turner.
Thank y'all for having me today. I want to first take the opportunity to tell everyone thank y'all for your support during the campaign. I really couldn't have done it without all of you guys' help. There's a lot of people along with the association who helped me, but a lot of people in the room stepped up, and I really appreciate that, and I want to make sure I tell everybody thank you. It's been a long 2 months so far, long way from campaigning anyway. The transition into the Sheriff's Department has been awesome, to say the least. Sheriff Dorning, who left office, really opened the doors for me the day after the election. I was able to step in as a part-time employee and really shadow him and share an office with him. So I really got a good head start on what the department really was going to offer me when I got there. I've been in law enforcement for 28 years, and I really worked the streets. I worked all the violent crime, and I worked all the things that's going on here in Madison County and Huntsville. But what I really had to get my head wrapped around was the budget and the jail. Everybody who sees that jail every day when you ride down the road. I was in that jail this morning at 6:30. So I want to pick it up and walk with it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Judge. Joanna told me I could not leave this podium. I'm sorry about that. So just to give you I'm going to give you a brief update on where the department is going and what we're trying to do. You know, a lot of you have probably read in the news where the commission gave us 10 deputies in the budget, and that is something that is really going to help not only our department and not only the manpower that we put, it's going to also help you guys in your job. It's going to be able for us to provide more manpower and patrol deputies in our communities that makes our communities safer. You know, 25 years ago, I was hired at the Sheriff's Department, or 28 years ago, I was hired at the Sheriff's Department, and I was one of 5 people. Since then, they have never hired more than 3 people in 1 year. And we were managed to submit, and we were able to get 10 deputies submitted to us in the budget, and that is huge for Madison County Sheriff's Department. So we are going to be hiring them the 1st of March. We're actually advertising right now, and we're starting that process. There's a lot of different things that we're doing in the department that's going to help our community be safer. We're teaming up we already have a task force agent with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which is going to target all the gun crimes that's going on in our community. We are going to team our drug agents up with a Drug Enforcement Association or DEA. And by doing that, it's going to provide more manpower and more funding and more things that we can do to take drugs off the street. The opiates and the heroin that you're all reading about and they're talking about on the news is probably a lot bigger than what you even think it is. It is major. Our drug enforcement, our narcotics agents this morning was out on a search warrant, and you know, just 5.5 ounces of heroin this morning. And you know, it don't take but about a half an ounce of heroin to get you life in prison. So you know, it's a big deal in our community. The violent crimes that you're reading about is the stem of the drugs. You know, I campaigned a lot about the opiates and the drug use in our community. That is the cause of all the violent crime. That is the cause of the robberies. That's the cause of the shootings. A lot of the domestic violences that are going on are based on the drug use. So we really want to focus on that. We want to focus on getting those 10 deputies out there. The jail in itself is a whole different animal. I will say that with a smile on my face because I'm really embracing this jail. Judge is going to get up here and talk to you in a minute about mental illness and what he's doing. We have our own mental ward or a hospital inside that jail. A lot of people don't know that. We have a psychiatrist, we have a doctor, we have 6 nurses. We have a dental facility inside that jail. So it is our job, once they're incarcerated, for us to maintain their cost. If they go to the ER, all of that is on the taxpayers' dollars. So, and what they give us to run the jail. So it is an absolute full-time job, to say the least, in operating the jail itself. But you know, it's a great job. I've enjoyed it. I have really, you know, I told my wife that now I get to be stressed out about something that I love instead of stressed out about campaigning. And I really love what I do. I really love working for the people of Madison County and the city of Huntsville. And we're teaming up with all the different agencies, with the city of Huntsville, Madison Police Department. I meet regularly with the U.S. Attorney, who is Jay Town, and we sit down and we're talking about targeting our violent offenders that are like a revolving door inside our jail. So instead of taking them and putting them in the state level, when we get a good felony charge or a dope or a gun charge, we can take them federal. You know, that is a great thing. We can get more time and they'll do more time in prison that way instead of getting good time and they're shipping them back to us. So we're really working on a lot of different angles to better our community and to make it better life for us that live here in the city of Huntsville and Madison County. You know, when I walked in here today, it was awesome to see everyone. Not only I get to see my neighbor Jonathan back there, but I get to see all of my high school classmates in here. It's amazing how many people I went to high school with in this room. So, but I'm going to leave a little bit. Frank told me not to go over my time. So Frank is my boss in the courthouse, if you didn't know. So. But I'm going to leave it open a little bit for some questions if y'all want to ask me any questions about what's going on, and I'll be happy to answer anything. Anyone? Does that mean I can talk for 20 more minutes? Anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Makes you appreciate Huntsville, Alabama, how good we've got it. But drugs are everywhere, and we've got gangs here. And we've got MS-13 here. Tell us a little bit about how y'all are trying to work that.
You just asked something that's in my wheelhouse. Thank you very much. For 19 years, I was over our gang task force. Gangs, they flux on who's locked up and who's not, okay? Just like in your environment, you have leaders. And so when people get locked up, if that leader's locked up, that particular structure is going to be put inside the penitentiary. When that person gets out, the only thing they know how to do is to sell dope and to organize people and bring the gang culture back into our streets. The heroin, the fentanyl, all the opiates that are being brought across the border, you know, like it or not, Huntsville is one of our hubs. You know, Huntsville's in a unique place. We got Nashville above us. We got Memphis on one side of us. We have Atlanta on one side of us, Birmingham below us. And what runs all between us is that interstate. And these guys know no boundaries. They know no state lines. They're going to station themselves and put hubs where they can just put their dope, where they don't have to transport it on the interstates. So it's our job to figure out who's selling that dope. Now, is it all MS-13? Is it all Hispanic culture? There's a lot of it, but no, it's not. I mean, it knows no, you know, boundaries as far as race or anything. Huntsville is a great place to live, but a lot of our drug dealers have figured it out. They get out of the bad neighborhoods and they figured out how to launder this money to go out in these nice neighborhoods and to buy these big, nice houses. You know, there's a particular neighborhood now close to me that there's a guy living in there, and we are trying to figure out a way to solve that. And he don't need to be out there. And he don't have a job. He ain't never had a job, and he's living better than I am. and he's not but 28 years old. So we got to figure out how he's getting in there. A lot of everything he's got is in his grandmother's name. She's been dead for 20 years, seems like. So we got to figure out that. We got the feds working with us. So there's a lot going on with the drugs and coming into our community. So not a real definite answer with that, but as far as the gang problem, I wouldn't say that we have a gang problem. We have gang issues. We have, used to back in the 90s when I worked it, we actually had gangs that were identifying themselves with Midwest or on West Coast, like Gangster Disciples or Crips or Bloods and all that. Now the kids take it and they put their own little flavor on it, and they put their neighborhoods, they're clicked up in different neighborhoods. So once you get a rein on who's leading what, you can really reach out and touch them a little bit, and it'll shut it down for a little bit. So any other questions? Yes, ma'am. It is contracted out. We have to contract that out, and they provide a psychiatrist and the nurses, and they provide everything to the jail. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Wow. That's going to differ. Right now we have 144 sworn, 144. We have 433 total employees. So it's growing each day. We got an academy about to graduate with 27 detention officers. And then we're going to hire the 10 deputies. So each month it's going to get bigger and bigger. So yes, sir. It's not a sheriff's office anymore, it seems. It's the sheriff's department. Yes.
Back to the drug issue. Do you have any plans to work with the youth, our high schools and things of that nature, as far as getting to our kids prior to drugs getting to our kids?
Yeah. Well, what we do with the school resource officers is we send them to the training to actually communicate with the kids. A lot of what I did when I was over the gang task force and worked with the drug unit, we would go in. I was actually part of the DA's office when we started the gang intervention and violence education classes for third graders. And everybody's, when I say third graders, everybody says, that's crazy. Well, those third graders are the ones watching the guys and girls in their community selling the dope. And that's how they learn at that age. And they knew all about it when we went in to talk to them. I think that is something that we probably need to start back targeting the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, because once they get to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, and they learn how to hustle and make that money, it's hard to change a person's mindset when they're making $500 or $600, $1,000 a week as a teenager selling drugs to go work at, a fast food or any type of minimum wage job. They don't want to do it. So I would love to develop something to where we go in and work with the kids, for sure. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you for everything that you do. The officers that are out at New Hope High School with my son, I love them very much.
Thank you.
But in this position that we have, this career that we chose, we come into some situations that aren't always the best. I know I have. So what advice would you have for us to collaborate? What kind of protocol do you think we could use to get a hold of someone? Who would you say that we should call if we find ourselves in that kind of situation?
I've always wondered about a realtor when they go in these houses to show. Is this what you're talking about, going and
Yes.
showing a home? I've always said that is the most dangerous thing for someone to show up and to show a house to a total stranger. I often tell my wife whenever she goes places to leave that phone in her hand, and even leave it on with me if she needs to, but leave it on, have some type of, your finger on it where you can call someone, let someone know where you're at before you go. I really don't know the answer other than just don't show it by yourself. I would carry someone with me. You never know who you're dealing with nowadays. It is, and the way people are on dope and on different types of drugs, their mind could flip as soon as they get in there. They could be perfect out there in the driveway or where you meet them at, but once they get behind closed doors, you never know what you're looking at. But you may be asking the wrong person. I am very Jonathan lives in the neighborhood with me, and I am very cautious of everything. Nobody comes down my street without, who's that? So, I don't trust, I'm just not that person anyway. So I feel like everything, I look at the negatives. But for sure, if you're showing a home, I would have somebody with me, to be honest. That's what I would do, to be on the safe side.
Sheriff, is there a non-emergency number for the sheriff's office, or a number you can share with us, or a place to look that up? So if people are encountering a situation that may not be a 911 issue.
Yeah, the 771-7200 will get you to the landline there at the dispatch.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, 772-7100. So, is that it? Thank y'all for having me, and I apologize for the microphone. But that's still
Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate the job you do protecting our community. So next, when Judge Barger agreed to come today, he had no clue that I had plans to share a personal experience rather than his great bio. So let's talk promises from elected officials. While topping Chapman Mountain one day with my 12-year-old in tow, she pointed out a man at the back of a vehicle filled with signs, parked off the side of the road on a really dreary, drizzly, just yuck day. So when I looked over, I realized I recognized the man, and I must have had a pretty surprised look on my face. And she asked me, she said, "Mom, what was that?" So I got excited, and I got to tell her, "Anna, that's what a person keeping a promise looks like." The man was soon to be probate Judge Frank Barger, and that moment spoke volumes to me and to my daughter, as he was putting actions behind a public promise he had made in picking up his campaign signs. So with that, I'd like to welcome Madison County Probate Judge Frank Barger.
I was trained well. I'm going to do exactly what Joanna told me to do. And I know that I'm one of the last few that stand between the next deal. And so I'll do my best to be timely and want to leave an opportunity for you to answer some questions or ask some questions, and let me answer them if you have any. Thank you for your tremendous support. My son will make 8 generations to grow up in Madison County. It is an honor to serve the community that I grew up in this capacity. Most folks don't realize the administrative work, the burden that our office carries. I'm not going to minimize the judicial role, but our administrative burden is huge. Now, I don't run a small enterprise like the sheriff. We have 24 employees. But the documents we record, the record-keeping service we provide is critical to your business. And I'm going to talk to you in a few minutes about some improvements that we have coming down the line on that. A critical thing, and thank you, Shay, for the kind introduction. I always do my best to deliver what I promise that I will deliver. And if I can't, there's going to be a reason why, and I'm going to be very clear and transparent about why we can't get there. But mental health, as the sheriff referenced earlier, is a huge issue. Last year, my office committed 321 individuals involuntarily. It's a huge number. We're very fortunate here in Madison County. We have just under 40 beds in the psych unit at Huntsville Hospital. We have a facility with 16 outpatient or inpatient care beds separate from the hospital. But our problem is we end up having to serve the communities around us. So we're burdened. I've made it a policy not to make those decisions based on space. We'll hold them until we can put them into their proper care. But we have not been utilizing the resources for mental health the way I believe that we should. I mean, no disrespect to anyone who has served before me, but in past administrations, we were not hearing mental health commitments on a daily basis. And your tax dollars, if they're not insured, pay to hold those individuals until we commit them or turn them over to the Department of Mental Health. So starting earlier, or in February, we began commitment hearings 5 days a week. And let me give you an example of just the cost savings there. Traditionally, they had been done only on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we have a process where we will hold someone who's mentally ill for 72 hours to allow proper assessment, to stabilize them, and then to make a determination on what kind of long-term care they might need. If I get a petition on a late Tuesday or Wednesday and we're going to hold them for 72 hours, I might not see them till the next Tuesday or Wednesday on that old schedule. Your taxpayer dollars, it's $1,500 a day roughly for every one of those individuals we hold. Now those tax dollars and that savings, that's important. But the most critical thing to me is we are not serving that fragile individual as quickly as we should and providing the support that their families need. So we've started 5 days a week. I do them on Monday afternoons and every morning. This morning I had 4 commitments in our courtroom at Huntsville Hospital. So we are working on that issue. We are not using the outpatient commitment process like we should. I have a consultant coming in from DC in a few weeks who has championed programs in other parts of the country, and we're going to start using that outpatient process to better serve folks and to free up the beds that we currently have. But in general, our state is in a crisis with mental health, and you can talk about funding, but you can throw dollars at a problem and not fix it. We need to use the resources that we have and maximize those, and we've started doing that under my leadership. Record keeping. We have about 15,000 square feet in archived records. There's a cost burden to maintain that, to staff it. And many of you know the work that goes into clearing title and getting everything to a closing table. Some of you who I know very well know that process very, very well. We have digitized about the last 20 or so years of records, but our earliest record is about 1809, 1810. They're not available to the public. Now, are we going to digitize that far back? I don't know. We'll see how far our money will go. But I was instrumental in helping our previous judge increase our imaging fee a handful of years ago. And he chose to bank those resources, but never acted on technology. And so we have had a consultant come in. We've assessed every document type we have, and in the next handful of months, we'll go out for bid. But we are going to start a comprehensive process to digitize and modernize our entire record-keeping system. Now, and Marcia says thank you. For the attorneys in the rooms especially, and for those of you that do a lot of title work, please understand we're going to go into this slowly, methodically. We're going to test, cross-reference indexes. My goal is to do a job so that in 20, 25, 30, 35 years, we've established a system that ensures the integrity of our records, so there's no concern about the validity of the work that you do prior to getting to a closing table, and that they're maintained properly. Another element to that are the historic integrity of records. I have handwritten voter lists from the 1800s. We have a handwritten index from 1809. I'm not going to destroy a document to digitize it. So we will maintain and have those archives. If you've never had an opportunity to visit the archives department overseas, it's fascinating to put your hands on and see some of those things. Let me make sure, I always keep a list. Let me make sure I'm not overlooking something. Elections, and it'll be the last thing that I touch on. Most folks, you might know now, but most folks don't realize that the probate judge is the chief elections official. I served as the elections administrator under your previous probate judge for almost 9 years. And if you work in county government, they always called it the Frank Barger management plan on elections. There's no perfect election, but I am proud of the job that I did and the staff, that I have a huge support staff that did to modernize and bring our elections forward when I was brought in and appointed in 2011. We have the best technology in the entire state. We implemented electronic poll books last year. Not to my credit, but it suffered in my absence last year. We did not have the best elections and management experience while I was on a leave of absence running to hold this office. I've hired a new elections administrator that I'll be working closely with, and I can assure you we'll be back on track for the March 20 primary. Re-implementing the training that I put in place, doing comprehensive work to be prepared and to do the best job to deliver a transparent, efficient, and a correct election when we get to the end of that primary. I appreciate you all very much. I want you to know this. I'm accountable to each of you, regardless of political affiliation. Whatever you need, I am here to assist you. I'm one of the rare folks that I'm going to give you a direct number. If you ever need to reach me, 585-7787. 585-7787. That is my cell phone number. If you were to call it, it's right there. It's going to ring. If you have anything that I can ever be of assistance to you for in any capacity, even if it's not something that I have any oversight in, if you need to get connected, learn something, take care of an issue, please let me know. Thank you for your time, and I'm glad to answer any questions you might have. And I want to apologize. It's hard to follow Kevin Turner. So, folks, ladies especially, get your loving today before he exits. And I always joke that my favorite Turner is who we call Mrs. Sheriff, his wife Corley. And let me just say this before I finish. Kevin is a very good friend. We needle each other quite a bit. He is one of my best friends. He is truly one of the finest human beings I know. What was stated earlier about him being honest, doing what he's going to say, doing what he says he will do. I have seen him in the quiet, in the private, and how he takes care of the business that affects our community. We're very blessed to have him in the role that he's in. All right. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the technology, you may have already answered this. I've used several different online platforms to look up records for different counties. I think the Madison County one is the hardest one for me to use. So are y'all looking at improving the platform and making it easier?
Yes, ma'am. We went to a new platform a couple of years ago. It actually is a much better platform than we had prior. The ability to search without providing a lot of in-depth information is there, but I am working with our vendor currently to try to streamline what those options are available to you. But for those of you that have worked with our online system for a number of years, we are in much better shape than we were. That is something that we're working on. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You guys are an easy crowd. All right. Thank you so much for the invitation today. It's my pleasure to serve you. Thank you.